If you are a graduating senior this year, first of all, congratulations. That's awesome. You made it through the toughest year that I could even imagine. But I highly recommend logging on to americaeast.com/alumni network and get involved, do things like this, get to meet awesome people like Sam, and get to learn from him as well, and maybe even jump in on some of his contacts. Maybe he can help you out along the way. So now that we got all of that part out of the way, Sam, so excited to talk to you. First of all, just kind of tell people what you've been up to since graduation.
Yeah, sure. And thanks so much for having me on. Really excited to chat with you. So I'm living down in DC now. Straight out of school, I joined Deloitte's advisory analytics practice. So I've been working there for nearly 6 years now. I've kind of gone back and forth between DC and New York. My wife just finished her master's in New York City. So we actually just moved back to DC a couple months ago. And yeah, just been spending a lot of time in my apartment,
Oh my gosh,
like everybody else for the last year or so. But yeah, that's kind of what I've been up to.
Okay, well, take us back, because you played basketball, which we know. I played basketball for Stony Brook. I graduated in 2013, so we did have a little bit of overlap there, where that competition between Albany and Stony Brook men's basketball was something to definitely remember. The women's
Absolutely.
Albany team was way better than we were at the time. But tell me what you majored in and all of that before we jump into exactly what you've done with that degree.
Yeah, sure thing. So I joined the Albany basketball team in 2011, and I started off as a business major, and then I was fortunate enough to pick up mathematics as a second major. Obviously was really fortunate to play with the teammates I had, and really, really lucky to go to a couple of NCAA tournaments throughout.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, so I was able to transition. Once I graduated in 2015, I was able to leverage the business and the maths into sort of the analytics career that I have now.
The analytics career. We're going to get to that in just a minute, because first I want to take you even back before you went to Albany. You came all the way from Sydney, Australia, to come to the States to be able to live out your dreams of playing basketball, and not only that, get this degree. Just what was that journey like for you?
It was really exciting. I think I was really fortunate that Luke Devlin, a name you may know, had come through the year before and kind of like blazed the trail for myself and some of my Australian compatriots who came after him. So he really like laid the groundwork that made that trip and that kind of journey much easier for the rest of us. But it was very intimidating. You're traveling kind of halfway around the world. You're going to a place where you don't really know many, if any, people. And thankfully, the cultures between Australia and America are relatively similar. So there wasn't as much of a culture shock, but it is always challenging. Little things like snow in winter and things like that is always a little bit intimidating the first time you have it when you're not used to that growing up. So it was definitely a culture shock, but the people at Albany and just I think the American people in general are so welcoming that that journey was thankfully made pretty easy, and I felt like I was home pretty quick.
Well, I'm impressed, because we obviously made a good impression on you here in the States for you to stay. So we're very happy that you did decide to stay. Talk to me a little bit about how you first managed to find a job right outside of school. That process is really scary. I remember going through it myself when the season's starting to wrap up, the high of being an athlete is starting to trickle away, and then all of a sudden it smacks you square in the face. I have to find a job. So what was that process like for you?
Yeah, I think terrifying is the word that comes to mind initially. I think like a lot of sort of student athletes, that's not something that's quite as high on our priority list as it should be during our final year, especially if we're going through our seasons and whatnot. So I left it very late. I was very, very fortunate that I could leverage the UAlbany alumni network, and there were some people who were incredibly generous to me with their time, whether it be arranging a job interview or really just like a chance to meet and discuss with them to sort of feel out what I wanted to do, because I honestly wasn't quite sure what I wanted to do. I'd done an internship in consulting with another consulting firm, so I knew that was kind of the general area, but it's a pretty broad area to work in. So I like the Albany Alumni Network was absolutely key for me, and really gave me the opportunity, and that was how I got the interview with Deloitte, which led to my employment there.
I'm going to get to Deloitte here in just a second. I just want to emphasize what you just said, because I completely agree with you. I got my first job in broadcasting through an alum of Stony Brook that I had never met. It's truly amazing what people will do for you, not knowing you, but just having that common ground of where you went to school. And I think if anybody's watching and you're thinking, should I join this alumni network? You absolutely should, because you're talking to two people here that got jobs from their schools and people that they've met through their network of where they went to college. And I think that that's so important. Okay, I've been teasing it enough. You work at Deloitte. What exactly is your role there? And how would you say being a student athlete prepared you for your role?
Sure. So I'm a manager in the advisory analytics process function within Deloitte. We have a lot of different levels of things. And so what that means essentially is I work in the analytics space, so I'm more of like a technical resource, but we manage teams who assist our business functions when they go to market, and we help them on the technical side. But I really kind of brand myself, and I think our area kind of brands itself as like anomaly detection specialist. So we help clients identify, extract insights from their data, whether they be very good or very bad. And we help them manage like big data sets and use statistical techniques to evaluate their data and draw insights from it.
That sounds extremely complicated. Did you first step into that job like kind of, whoa, what's going on? I mean, I know I would, and I was a business major, and that intimidates me.
I definitely make it sound more complicated than it actually is. I think that's half the art to it. But yeah, it was certainly a learning curve. I think I was really lucky that both of my majors at Albany, being business and maths, set me up pretty well for that. They gave you kind of the business acumen as well as the kind of technical mathematical skill set. And then I was lucky that Deloitte has a lot of kind of learning opportunities as well.
This is a little off topic when it comes to your career in general, but I am curious, do shows like Ozark and shows about money laundering just give you hives? Are you able to sit through them?
So I will say my first project with Deloitte was an anti-money laundering project. Wasn't quite as exciting as Ozark. I am a big fan of that show.
Okay, so you like it. You can watch those things without getting nervous or starting to get stressed out.
Yeah, absolutely. I think my wife made the stipulation that we have to watch Ozark during the day because she was getting a bit stressed out. But other than that, we were fine.
I love that. I'm with her. Okay, so I'm sure that there's been different points in your career that you've had to sort of reach back into the lessons you may have learned as a student athlete and use that, whether that's in times of adversity or maybe even how to handle success in the right way. Are there any stories or anything that stand out to you on when you really had to use something that you learned from being a student athlete and apply it to you now in the quote unquote real world? Yeah,
I mean, I think there are so many attributes or sort of elements to being a student athlete that have carried over into my experience post college. Like the time management, the sort of work ethic, all those sort of standard ones. I think two ones that really stand out to me and are perhaps a little bit different is I think first is the ability to take constructive criticism. I think the ability to see every loss or area, like every instance where you may not succeed or you've made a mistake as the opportunity to learn, and the ability to kind of take feedback in stride and not take things personally, and know that there's kind of a broader purpose behind any criticism, whether it be kind of constructive or otherwise, is something that I kind of draw on. I really feel like you have, for lack of a better terms, kind of thicker skin sometimes because you've gone through kind of a more intense and situations with a lot more pressure perhaps than you might find, in second by second, minute by minute in a working environment. Mm-hmm. Not to throw my old coach Brown under the bus here, but and I consider myself very fortunate to have played for him. But I kind of joke with some of the partners that I work with that doesn't matter how much, like what criticism they can give to me, they'll never yell at me like my college coach used to. And I say that with a lot of affection. I say that with a lot of affection for Coach Brown. Yeah. So I think that's one that's just kind of like stood the test of time for me. And the other is just from a team, like a team-oriented perspective. As I've become a manager in the past year, I've been kind of drawing back on the skill sets that you learn from your coaches, or at least I did when I was playing, whereby you need to kind of balance your team dynamic between, you want the immediate performance of adhering to your teammates' strengths as best you can and identifying those strengths and playing to them so that you can give the best work product that you can, but also at the same time kind of developing those teammates, identifying what their weaknesses are, and giving them the opportunity to develop. And that balancing act between kind of performance from a project or a team perspective, while simultaneously giving them the chance to build on their own skill sets and career, like for their own career development, I think is important. And it's something I've been juggling a lot the last year or so, and it reminds me a lot of my time as an athlete.
I love that. I think those are both great points and great aspects to reflect on, because I do think there are moments when you're, deep in an adult situation in terms of you're at work and things are, like you said, you may get criticized for something, or you're in charge of somebody, and how to handle those situations. It seems like you've been able to reach back into your memory bank and pull out some good experiences, which I like to hear. I'm going to remind everybody right now that you can type in questions at any time. And Sam, very excitingly, we have a few for you already. So I'm going to get you a couple right here. Do you still stay connected with your former teammates?
Not as much as I should. It's funny, and it's kind of sad, as great as it is, like as close as we were as teammates, we had teammates from all over the country, which was fantastic. But, after college, people sort of head back to their respective origins a little bit. But yeah, absolutely. I love to stay. I mean, particularly close with like Luke Devlin, my brother, Mike Rowley, and Dallas Enema these days. We just kind of overlap in a lot of ways, but I do a bad job of staying in touch with my team as I should have done it. I should certainly make more efforts.
I think it happens. I mean, my teammates and I go in and out of waves, right? And that's just what happens in life. But you'll always be connected in some form or another. Okay, this is another question I got for you. When did you start thinking about a career after sports? Was that after your junior year? Was it after your senior year?
So it was after my junior year that I started kind of considering it. I realized that my aspirations of making the NBA were wildly unrealistic. And so I sort of had to figure out what the plan B was there. So yeah, after junior year was when I started to really think about it.
Since it is NCAA March Madness time and you've gotten a chance to go to the tournament, are you excited to watch it every single year? Do you have a memory that, when everybody gathers around the TV, are you chirping up with some fun memories from that time that sort of stick out to you?
Yeah, I think my close friends and family here find me insufferable during the tournament, because I like to regale them with my short experiences there. But yeah, I think honestly, it's the off the court stuff that really sticks with me. Like, it's really exciting to watch it now. I'm very excited for it this year, and big congrats to Hartford and Coach Gallagher for their team making it through. But it's the off the court stuff. It's like the chance to meet with my family after the games, preparing for the games with my teammates beforehand. That's the stuff that like really sticks with me, and that I remember really fondly.
Well, I've taken up so much of your time, and if you guys have any questions anymore, get them in now, because I'm going to ask what was my last and final question for you, which was, what advice do you have for graduating seniors or even underclassmen as they start to think about their life after a sport?
Yeah, I think you really can't prepare too early. I know that was something that I wish if I could have the chance to do it over, I would have started preparing a little bit earlier. I think don't underestimate the value of the network at your schools. As we were saying before, like I owe so much to, these were people that I had never met, face to face before, who like opened their homes to me. I stayed with some people down in New York City when I came down to interviews that I had only met through the alumni network. So I owe them a huge debt of gratitude. Like the generosity there is really kind of heartwarming, and it will help you. So I would just, be very open to the idea of using that pathway, because it was incredibly helpful to me.
I love that. Sam, thank you so much for sitting down and taking time out of your busy schedule to not only, we talked graduating seniors, we talked, getting linked in with networking and all of that. We talked on numbers, which I still don't understand how you do what you do, but maybe you could come over and try and help me with my shopping problem and maybe help my finances. I'm not so sure if that's exactly what you want to have to do, but I could definitely use some help with that. But we've just learned so much from you, and I appreciate you hopping on and chatting with me. And best of luck in your career moving forward. Where can people find you if they had any questions that maybe they didn't get into this chat?
Yeah, I'm on LinkedIn and Facebook. I actually don't have an Instagram account. This is the first time I've ever been on Instagram, somewhat embarrassingly.
Welcome.
But yeah, thank you. but yeah, LinkedIn is probably best. You know, happy to reach out if anybody's interested in like a similar career path. More than happy to connect.
Well, thank you for doing your Instagram debut with us. And everybody, once again, please, if you want to get involved with the Alumni Network, I highly, highly recommend it. Go to americaeast.com/alumni network to join in on all the fun. Thanks so much, Sam. I appreciate it.
Thanks so much for having me.